there's one very singular fact in this world that's almost a little difficult to explain, and that's the fact that charisma gets you far further than intelligence does. I mean, you can give a bright smile, be charming, and it can get you far further than actually knowing anything. However, there is something more dangerous than high charisma, and that would be high charisma mixed with an actual goddamn brain.
If you haven't noticed, I've literally got you against the wall.
And don't think I don't appreciate the effort. However, you will never, ever defeat me with that form.
But why? It's so strong.
Oh yeah, in raw power, it can't be beat. But the amount of concentrated energy causes an extreme expansion in mass. The body can't compensate. And while you'll see a 50% power increase, you'll see a 75% decrease in speed and mobility. In a layman's terms.
You can't hit me.
See, there's one particular type of character which I find to be the most fascinating, the most fun, something that I genuinely just constantly love watching, and it is the trope known as the Magnificent Bastard. Now, I have talked about this trope before, but honestly, I can't be bothered to go and find the video where I originally talked about it.
My life is meaningless!
If you want to know a little bit more about the trope itself, you can go watch Trope Talk, where they talk about, well, this exact kind of trope, or go read the page on movietropes.com? I forgot the website. The point is, this is a character archetype that is beloved by many. It's somebody who's incredibly charismatic, somebody who's always in control, but at the same time is hyper intelligent and is in control not just because they can give a good smile, but because they can back it up with some genuine, actual knowledge.
Lose more than that when the king gets through with you. He's as mad as a hippo with a hernia.
Ooh, I quiver with fear.
Now, Scar, don't look at me that way.
This is, and I know I say this about pretty much every archetype that I talk about, but I feel like it should be really obvious why I'm saying it about this one. It's really difficult to play because you need two things. You don't just need to be smart or need to be charismatic. You need a way to do both. And also you need the D6s to roll properly with you to get you the stats that's necessary for this. And it's exactly why I wanted to talk about this character archetype. The Magnificent Bastard is typically a villain who is admired for their charisma, intelligence, and sometimes even their principles.
Do you understand, Eric? Those who don't appreciate life do not deserve life.
And now, a word from our sponsors. You may wonder why the camera angle has changed, as is the lighting, as is what I'm wearing, and the answer to that is the fact that I didn't know that I was going to be sponsoring this video specifically for Only Crits and their Kickstarter, but the reason that I'm doing that is because they have reached their funding in record time, and you need to hear about it. Now, for those of you who don't know, Only Crits has actually been a long-time partner of the channel, long time, almost since we were beginning, and they have been an absolutely amazing partner who have supported us so much, and they've started a Kickstarter for the dice, which is so fun to advertise because I have to bleep myself every single time that I say it. But no, seriously, the dice are a very fun concept where when you roll a natural 1, it says, and when you roll a natural 20, it says yeet, or any other combination. You can get different fonts, you can get different styles. These dice are absolutely amazing, and it's kind of the exact sort of humor that I love to bring to my channel in the first place, so I'm super happy to advertise this for them. They've recently reached their 10th stretch goal, and I would love to continue to support them. Their Kickstarter ends on the 30th, because seriously, this is the #1 partner to the channel, and they have helped me more than any other sponsor, and I always want to give back to the TTRPG community in any way that I can. So thank you, please go support them, links in the description, and back to the video. Many times when I make these videos, a lot of people get mad because they either expect me to talk about making this type of character into an NPC or a player character. So congratulations. This is a video where I'm going to make it into both. I will be talking both about what it takes to make this a player character in your TTRPG and an NPC for the DM to use, and specifically just talking about the trope as a whole and how it can be used in the storytelling medium. If you like me doing that and want to see more videos with me using that format, comment below and like and subscribe. Literally, if the video does better, it is a very clear indicator to me that that is something that you want from me. So,
or you can like, comment, subscribe saying you like me.
You could also do that. That is an option.
I'm cooler than you.
I know for a fact that there are going to be more comments saying that they like you than they like the video.
They have an obsession with me like you have an obsession with my...
I'm not putting that in the video, let me tell you. Now, like most archetypes I talk about, it's difficult and problematic to play in TTRPGs for a few different reasons. I wouldn't talk about it if it wasn't something that was a little more difficult to actually make happen in your game. The main thing is the trope requires a balance of both charisma and intelligence, like I mentioned, and that's just generally subjective and hard to portray consistently. It's easy enough in a movie, show, book, where you can write about it, or, you know, write a script about it, or have any amount of time to actually prepare the things that the villain does or says in advance. And a TTRPG, it's a little bit more difficult as well, because not only do you have to come up with this stuff in the moment, most TTRPGs are improv inherently, but also because of the fact that you have to do something incredibly actually difficult. You have to play somebody who's pretty akin to a villain. Now for an NPC, this is more easy because you can just play, I don't know, the villain. But if you're playing as a player character, I have explained many times before why an evil or villainous character is generally difficult to do, because typically these types of characters don't like to play along with parties, and in order to play in these games, you have to play with your party. It is necessary. The table must like your character, even if the party members do not. Otherwise, it creates conflict and removes the entire point of the game, which is to play and create a story with the rest of the characters and players. So, I don't feel like I need to spend a lot of time explaining why this is a difficult trope to play, because yeah, it's right there for you. So, what do? Typically when these types of characters are made, there's one specific thing that causes them to become unlikable and or generally frustrating. And that's the fact that the character seems omniscient or unrealistically knowledgeable.
You're investigating me? Who do you think you are, Blueberries? And who do you think
I am? What? I don't know. Why don't you ask?
You. No! That's impossible!
What this means is this is a character who's supposed to be incredibly bombastic and likable, while also smart. Think about characters in popular media that fit this trope. A lot of the times it's the deal makers, of which I've made a video about. People like Bill Cipher, somebody who's incredibly smart and generally outsmarts you, while also being very charismatic and fun and likable. It's honestly not unlikely that this sort of trope kind of folds over inside of the dealmaker trope in the first place, but it is a little bit more different. Oftentimes these characters will portray themselves without needing to make a deal. They're above that because they're charismatic enough to not need to do that and smart enough to be able to outsmart the players. And so if you are somebody who's trying to make this a type of trope that you want to play, it can be kind of difficult to get to. Not only that, maintaining the fairness of the character can also be difficult. Like I mentioned, it's hard not to make them feel omniscient. And what I mean by that is if you need this character to be so smart that they're always one step ahead, it's pretty easy to metagame, whether you're the DM or the players, and that can be really frustrating. Now this can be circumvented by dice rolls. You can either ask the DM, can I make a history check to try and know this specific thing that will help my character? And if you don't make the roll, you don't know it. If you make the roll, you know it. But as a DM, it can be a little bit more difficult, because while you can still make the rolls behind the screen, most of the players won't know that's what you're doing. And so when you just know things, I don't know, it could be a little bit difficult.
Sorry to disappoint you, Yugi. Huh? You triggered my trap card!
When you wake up before you brush your teeth, you got your trap. All the time you get down on your knees, she ain't crowded.
But that's not the only thing that this character does. They're also charismatic. And honestly, if there's one specific character in general who I find to be the perfect embodiment of this trope and a great example of how to learn how to play it, and that would be Perfect Cell from Dragon Ball Z Abridged.
Now, if you don't mind, it's time to turn your little coming out party into a funeral.
And time's up. Prince, while there's absolutely nothing I'd rather do than stand here and listen to you bluster at me till the heat death of the universe, I literally have a million better things to do. So here's the deal. I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
Oh, is that right?
Now hold on. You might have misheard me. Not half as hard, not some arbitrary percentage. I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
And if I don't play along?
Well then, I guess your father was right about you.
Now I know it does seem weird that I would use a character from an abridged show, a comedy show, a YouTube series that could generally be boiled down to a shitpost. But genuinely, one, I think the later seasons of this show has some of the best writing I've ever seen ever. But also, I'm gonna be super real with you, I think that it is more than just a comedy show by the end of it. And Perfect Cell is a brilliant combination of that. See, there's two things you have to do in order to make this sort of archetype work well in your favor. You have to be likable for a certain reason, and you have to be competent for a certain reason. When I describe the magnificent bastard trope, it's easy to assume that I'm implying that you have to be intelligent and charismatic, but that's not necessarily true. You just have to be useful and likable for any reason. And Perfect Cell fits this amazingly because Perfect Cell is incredibly competent, in fact, the strongest fighter in the show up until that point, and he's also likable for the fact that he genuinely has a reason to care about the main character. For those of you who've never seen Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Abridged, Perfect Cell is the culmination of every single one of the main characters up until that point. Literally, he is the creation and culmination of all of their DNA put into a test tube and created to be the perfect warrior, Perfect Cell. And so for that reason, he has a genuine odd fondness for every single one of the main characters. Throughout the entire series, we see him constantly face off against these characters and have a very odd interaction with them. He calls them out for exactly what they are. He knows exactly what their weaknesses are, what their strengths are, and even underneath all of that, there is a genuine fondness for the characters as well.
So, you gonna take a swing? Or are you just gonna stand there staring into my eyes?
What was that? I was busy staring into your eyes.
Oh, you beautiful Saiyan bastard, just punch me already!
Well, all the characters outside of TM.
I see you brought the whole gang along to witness our battle. Piccolo, Trunks, tension on.
Kiko, how you doing?
Perfect.
And it's because of that we find ourselves liking Perfect Cell. Yes, he's incredibly hateable for a lot of reasons, but he's still charismatic because, well, we care for the main characters, and thus we care for him because he seems to care for them. This is a great way of handling things if you want to play this as an NPC. As the DM, find specific things that this enemy can relate with the other characters. You don't have to be the culmination of all their DNA, but have them relate with a certain character trait of each of the players and have a genuine fondness for it. Don't have them just hate the main characters for hating's sake. That doesn't do much to actually help anything unless that hate goes so far into the realm of being comedic, which, if it works that way for your campaign, if that's the type of campaign you're running, congrats! Whether you're an enemy or a friend, finding a way for everybody to want to like you is honestly pretty important for this trope. I wouldn't recommend needing to be liked for most character archetypes, but for this one, it can honestly be very important. But that leads to the other end of the spectrum. You gotta be competent. Perfect Cell is amazing because he is the perfect culmination of all of their fighting techniques. He is the strongest fighter up until that point, so it's easy to make him competent. And at TTRPG, it's not as easy to do that.
A volunteer.
Competency needs to come in a lot of different ways. It doesn't have to be intelligence, but it must be something. And in this way, I would recommend really building your character, if you are one of the players, to do so very particularly what they're meant to do. If you are supposed to be the strength-based character, be the strength-based character. Build to be that. If you're supposed to be charismatic, do that. But make sure that you go as far out of your way as possible to be as capable as possible for the specific thing you're supposed to do, and then be that. Fill that role. And then that allows you to be competent enough to be necessary to keep around. It helps makes everybody like you. And then when you portray this, whatever it is, trait that makes everybody like you because you were competent with it, just be, well, friendly about it. Even when Perfect Cell is kicking everybody's butts, he continues to be friendly and charismatic, and I think that is genuinely a great way of doing it. Also, doing this allows you to circumvent the unfortunate need for multiple stats. Most TTRPGs require you to put your stats in different areas, D&D specifically requiring, well, intelligence and charisma. But if you're not trying to be charismatic, but instead just competent and therefore likable, you could put anything that you want. You could be in strength, it could be in charisma, it could be in constitution if you're just meant to be a huge meat wall. Just be good at what you're supposed to be good at, and then be charismatic. The charisma genuinely is one of the more important aspects of this type of archetype so that you can really nail down what you're attempting to do. Moving along, one of the most important parts of this character is that they must be understandable and eventually, in the third act, crack. Now, saying the third act is very difficult when it comes to TTRPGs because, again, they're improv, and the 3-act structure is typically consumed within the very written media that is created beforehand, not in improv. So saying this is more difficult than actually you know, understanding what it means. The third act is there for your character to be at their breaking point. So rather than assume it's the third act, allow your character to get to their breaking point if it is necessary. One of the most interesting parts of this archetype is allowing the character to eventually reach that point of no return, of allowing their actual facade to crack, of allowing themselves to no longer be that magnificent bastard, but instead show there was a genuine person inside that facade. Even Perfect Cell does this in his fight against Gohan. Up until this point, he has been unflappable, unbreakable, and then he meets somebody who just hits his buttons in the right way.
All right, Cell, we saw what losing your cool got you. So tone down the Frieza and chill the hell.
Done getting your shit together up there? Because I'm starting to get bored.
What did you just say to me, you heartless little shit?
I said I'm bored. You're boring me.
I would not allow this to happen to your character until the right moment, because it really allows them to just feel truly human. Up until this point, they might have felt unbreakable, but now you get to see them and it makes them even more likable. Now, this is something to do more so if you are playing it as an NPC rather than a player character, but I feel it is viable for both. Allowing the character to reach that final moment is honestly super satisfying, and I cannot stress enough how much it may make the character's arc feel truly all together. But ultimately, this character archetype is more of a state of mind than anything, of choosing to be smart, intelligent, charismatic, of choosing to be unflappable, of just sending yourself forward and doing what you do best, which is being hateable but likable at the same time. And honestly, I feel if you could do that, you can make a really fun character. So go out into the world, make it your own. Never forget to play a role, and listen to my wife as she gives the call to action.
Oh. Like, comment, subscribe. Support the Olive Branch family that we are supporting. It's always going to be a link. Thank you so much for the support that you've provided thus far. Don't hate me for my moment of not paying attention. I was watching TikTok. And also go out and vote this year, please. Like, it's so important. Bye, y'all.